Content number 1 has to do with the fact that Michael does have academic responsibilities, and that I would like at least a look at your, you and several people a few years younger than you, but not very much younger, who are working on the legalities of power through the texts of antiquity. And all of them are, it's kind of a hand-picked group.
Right.
And they're bright enough to start saying, wait a minute, would this shit work? So there you are, grading papers. And one of the people in the group, do you have any images for the people in the group, what they might look like or be like? Before I jump in with that?
Actually don't have too much in mind.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, in that case... I
think I wanted to be surprised.
No problem. In that case... Catholic universities are a very, for lack of a better word, Catholic place with a little c, particularly in the graduate schools, and so therefore Sidney Greenberg is one of your graduate students, and Sidney has written a fascinating Solomonic paper. And he's contrasting. His whole paper is about how the 19th century fascination with occult was lame-brained. And that they obviously were much more interested in their trip than they were in actually reading the stuff.
Right.
And so he's gone back and he said, my God, the whole discussion, the whole academic discussion of Solomonic, stuff is completely tainted by the Brits in the 19th century and the Golden Bough and all that kind of stuff. And if you actually read it, it's totally, its own thing. And so, but he's disturbed, though, because it has elements in it that, suffice to say that, it may well be part of Jewish tradition, but considering it part of Torah tradition is a stretch, much more so than he thought.
Right.
And so he's saying, this is kind of disturbing. I'm really not sure if this is really, in the right. Is this really Abrahamic? Is this really, am I going somewhere really dark with this stuff? And so he's writing about it, and he's like, where is morality? That's his question. Where is morality? And he's written a pretty fucking good paper. You're like reading this and going, wow. So just letting you know, your students are thinking, and your knowledge that this actually is a source of power might make you start feeling itchy.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Does he knock on my door?
If you want, yeah. He's real interested. He said, hey, Michael, really interested in what you thought of my paper. I can't wait. I know I'm supposed to wait till Monday. Can't wait.
These are really good thoughts, Sidney. Let's see, what would I say? What? I'm interested in your concerns about the morality of wielding power.
Well, what really worries me about this is that one is not gaining more power through a better, more virtuous grip on what's right and wrong. It's maybe not the same as just expertise at the letter of the law. It might not be that bad, but it is, a bad person could get really far with this. And so the question is whether this is, he kind of looks around and kind of looks at, the kind of looks at the Mary stuff on the wall and kind of looks back at you and says, this may seem kind of strange as a discussion point, but just how religious is this anymore? I mean, he says, I'm not even all that observant, but I care. I mean, I'm curious about where you stand in regard to this. Do you mind me asking you personally? I mean, how Catholic is what we're doing here? And I ask that in reference to any Abrahamic religion. I mean, if there was a Muslim guy sitting here, looking at the same tradition of stuff, it's the same question.
It's a difficult thing to come to understand, Sydney, but I believe that we have to accept that there are big gaps in what we learn from Orthodox religion. And this is filling in gaps in ways that we might not have wanted to know if we had the choice. But
my family, he says, is conservative. No, big C, conservative. And
I understand that.
And he says, so my understanding was that all the gaps that you're talking about were filled in by the different split or the different designations of Judaism. But I now understand. I mean, he laughs, says, "Well, that's what theology school will do for you. You realize how recent all these rock bottom things that you thought are."
Right.
And so now I know that that's barely a couple of centuries old, and is completely wrapped up in the politics of the 19th century and the 20th century, and really doesn't have the weight, that I would have hoped. So yeah, I just want to let you know. I mean, I appreciate your thoughts. If you're wrestling with it too, that's actually kind of a relief.
Yeah. It's a lot to wrestle with.
Yeah, he says. He says, "I'll tell you one thing." He says, tapping the paper that you're halfway through. He says, "I'll tell you one thing." He says, "I'm not trying any of this shit."
Well, that's probably wise.
And you're thinking to yourself, 5, 4, 3, 2. I also wanted to take a look a little bit at the Black family history.
Shit.
Well, the first thing is that your grandfather had actually been a very favored superhero. Lots of great press coverage, has several altruistic acts during disasters and things like that to his credit. And although the comics played up the idea of a crime fighter, the fact is that having superhero powers doesn't really mean anything in terms of fighting crime. It doesn't actually make any sense. It doesn't actually work. So the comics are all about him as, stopping people from robbing banks and stuff like that. But that never happened. But what you didn't know so much about, there's kind of a gap where nobody talks about from the early 1950s, when sort of his brief World War II experiences, there's sort of a dip, and then after that he's sort of this guy who helps in a disaster and stuff like that once in a while. So that's kind of the history. Now, a name for the character is kind of interesting. I was thinking of kind of originally a wartime name, so something like, and back then, mechanized warfare was pretty new. So it sounds kind of silly to call somebody, the human missile or something like that now. But back then, Jetman actually isn't all that crazy a name.
Yeah, I like it because I remember that's the way you describe the Monsanto flight powers, like a human missile. So that would make perfect sense.
That, or maybe we could even call him like Super Jet or something like that. Something fairly. Again, it sounds silly, but when the word jet airplane was, or jet propelled airplane was the original term.
Yeah, but I like that it has the word human in there. Right. Well, I like missile.
Sure. Okay. The human missile. Okay, so that's what they called him. And then later, maybe after World War II, later in the 50s, they called him just missile.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So, and so yeah, the sort of the supersonic streaking flight was a big deal. And it helped with disasters. He could get there right away, So I think that's kind of what we're talking about. But that one gap in the history, though, is pretty distinctive when you go back and look at it and like try to read up on it. So the question is whether you want to do that.
Yeah.
Especially in reference to your mom.
What I want to know is when I'm a bit fussy on when he got his powers. I'm not sure Monsanto existed back then.
I was just checking on that. You might be interested to know that that Monsanto was founded in, wait for this, 1901.
What?
And it actually was spun off from a previous company or an existing company, which I remember the name of. I haven't heard about it for decades, but does anyone else recognize the name Upjohn?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that from my childhood, that it was a corporate name of some note. Yeah. And Upjohn goes all the way back into the 1800s, and Monsanto spun off from that.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, so they've been around for a long freaking time.
Were they making
maybe they were.
What I'm looking at right now mostly focuses on after 1970, which is when it made Roundup.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm thinking like IBM in the 1940s and 1930s. They were just starting and helping both the Nazis and the U.S. government,
1935, Monsanto bought the Swan Chemical Company in Alabama, entered into the business of producing PCBs, which is to say it's an industrial chemical of extreme importance.
Yes, I know. Yeah. I know about.
And then, so and in the 60s and 70s is when they shifted into genetics research in a big way. 1983, the year that I graduated high school, and went into studying genetics at the University of Chicago, my first year there, was the year that they actually did their first successful gene transfer into plants.
Wow.
Yeah, with and so it's, but it was mostly industrial chemistry before that, and it didn't become the agricultural biotech thing until the 80s, after they started doing plant genetics.
Yes.
So
I think that should be the moment when they start buying patents en masse,
Yeah, true. Although, as I say, it's kind of interesting. As I pointed out before, these older superheroes in our game world are game setting are very, very interesting, because some of the superheroes, the legalities were not worked out until through the 50s and 60s.
Yes.
So there's a lot of whacked ambiguity at work there with people like Man of War. So that's why that period in the early 50s to me is very important and is worth, and you realize that no, the casual research into that doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's what you're finding out.
I need to talk to Mom.
Right. And what you're going to find is that your mother at this point has been legally advised to have no contact with you or your father.
No contact with?
You or your father.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The lawyers just did a huge big turnaround, and now the legal advice is not to have any contact whatsoever, and only through legally mediated third parties is this going to be decided. And it shouldn't be too hard to guess just who's offering their services as the third party for the divorce.
Fuck. Why would she do that?
She might not have initiated it.
She might not. What?
She might not be responsible for it.
All right.
And she's got her
So
own.
I can discuss this over the phone. I need to fly and talk to her.
Aha. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. And so those are sort of the personal things at work. I want to know a little bit more. Let's see. Your supporting cast has spent a day with Hero Machine, the make your own costume, program.
Oh, they're all.
They've all been working on Hero Machine, and they've decided that Blue Bolt, or Mind Bolt, or Brain Bolt, those are all their suggestions, is going to need a real costume, a real look. And so, so if you want it to be blue, that's cool,
No.
Yeah. And so they're going with the sort of freaky, scary thing that you had come up with the zipper, but they're coming up. They all went off to Hero Machine, and they have made up like 1,000 masks to look at. So all I'm saying, Brian, it's out of your hands.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they've completely taken over, and they're talking about you in the third person when you're sitting there. So,
But what I don't get is, will I be using the same persona, like to be in a group with?
no, the idea is that you're sort of Mind Bolt.
The Black Ops.
No, well, your whole Mind Bolt group character is part of the Defiance, and Silverbeak isn't.
And Silverbeak isn't. Yes.
Right, Silverbeak works for the university. Thank you very much.
Yes, but
and everybody knows that Silverbeak is Brian Black, and nobody knows who Mind Bolt is.
Of course.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So, yes.
Or whatever they call him. Every time someone says the name, someone else says another name.
Right.
So,
I'm still putting in my votes for Blue Gimp. But
nobody's paying a bit of attention to you.
So when we do like another prison bust like the one we did, those will be we are going to do it as the Defiant. I mean, it will be us.
Well, that's the question. I mean, it seems like a pretty good at this point. I mean, why not own it? Is Jennifer Powers' point of view? Why not own it? I mean, if they're going to come down on us sooner or later anyway, we might as well have public support. We might as well play, be who we are, and whatever we can come up with in terms of being able to, really, who's going to stop us? I mean, maybe if they pull in one of the big superheroes to come and stop us, but that doesn't seem to be those guys.
So we are going to be outlaws. The Defiance will be an outlaw group. Maybe
I think the word better. Maybe let's see. Who else is sitting there? If Amanda is there, and she would do the thing. She would do the thing when people are thinking with their pen. She's doing this. Mm-hmm. Right. She's doing this. She says, "I prefer to say protest group."
I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, but will be an anonymous protest group. I mean, not a single one of us will be using their real name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
And if we do the right thing and gain public support for us, then basically we're de-villainizing, defying the corporate ownership of superpowers.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Dave.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was... Yes.
Yeah, the
right.
fact that all three of the superpowered characters at the table all nodded at once, that tells you something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking, what if I like jump around a lot and pretend I can fly, and I call myself the grasshopper or something? What do you guys think?
Well, as predicted, and as I already described, they are just talking about how Silver Mind, Thought Bolt, Blue Thought, Thought Blast, Mind Blast. They're all about all these names, and your input is not required.
It's so related to the mind for them.
Yeah, it's got to be. That's your thing, In fact, one of them says, how come you don't just bowl people over with like mental bolts or something? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I get it. I'll work on my mind powers.
Right.
Lately, I'll do some practice.
Mm-hmm.
So what are they thinking right now? Since
as long as make your attack roll, 3 dice.
Yeah. 10.
Okay, and roll your 3 dice now for your effect.
All right. $14.
Oh, not bad. Not bad at all. Well, they're very enthusiastic about your powers and stuff. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, look at Finhead. Finhead, awesome. Like yeah, excellent. Okay, so that's what they're thinking. First of all, that one, you got it right there. That's the consensus is focusing around this, and also the.
I love the belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is married life treating you, by the way, Mike?
Oh, no, it's going great. It's kind of a steady track from being almost married to being married. Well, we've been married for a year, so after the first year, you get used to it.
Yeah, right. Retroactively used to it. That reminds me, your mom really wants to know when the date is to get married.
Well, what were you thinking, Amanda?
Amanda says the sooner the better. This has been terrible. I mean, we've got to do something about this.
All right. Well, how do you feel about St. Paul's?
Okay.
I'll start asking them when there are dates.
All right. I'll start thinking about parties.
Well, it looks like we've got ourselves a plan.
All right. Now let's talk a little bit more about Ross's situation, because we've kind of left one of our plot threads hanging that I presume Finn has not been leaving hanging. Which is...
Are we perhaps talking about my brother?
I am.
Yes.
And also, the big question is, what on earth are you guys doing with Darren Gates?
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
Not handing him over to Myrmidon.
Right.
The poor bloke. He feels like he needed a bit of TLC after we finally calmed him down.
Well, when last seen, we were calming him down in the van.
Right, in the pickup truck,
Really?
actually, on the way home. Yeah.
Pickup truck.
He was still all gooey like, right? Or
Well,
was he
he'd
No.
he'd reformed at that point.
Oh,
physically.
that's cool.
I
Yes.
guess this guy's your new roommate, Jen.
Oh man, she says there's only one bathtub in here.
Well, we don't have a lot of options unless we want to go back and retake over Aquaman.
Yeah.
I doubt they're willing to cut a deal.
The office building you were talking about, Rod.
Oh yeah.
If you guys wanted a suite in there that you treated as your base, you could have it.
Okay.
Mm,
I'm
that
down
would
for
be
it.
interesting.
I feel we may need some awful deal with somebody in order to have a suite of office or an office suite. I don't think a Starbucks salary is going to cover that.
Well,
But weren't we working with the Catholic university now?
well, that's
Are
what
they
you know.
going to provide that
Cheryl's kind of
funds?
interested in this, and she's thinking
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
trying to figure out a way, actually, to expropriate particular funding, if at all possible.
Well, I mean, it could be just we were talking about opening an. If we're talking about opening an off-campus reference library / resource center for the Lexicon project,
Mm-hmm.
then that seems. I
Could
mean,
be.
that seems like cover, and then it's
Yeah.
the question of actually how do you do it.
So okay, that can get underway.
Okay, so there you go.
Now the problem, of course, is setting up the labs and tanks in there.
Right.
Although, granted, Finn and Tweaky are used to doing this sort of thing on kitchen stoves and garage, hookups. So, they don't see it as too much of a problem. But OSHA would not approve.
Right. I don't know if this background is also filled in, but I sort of had my own private idea that Tweaky actually lives in Austin because that seems like somewhere.
Seems like I think you're right. I think you're right. That works. Yeah.
If she and Finn are old hands in this, maybe they know some stash spots or abandoned spots off the highway between San Antonio and Austin.
As a sort of a
Yeah.
temporary lab space.
Temporary lab space, yeah.
But the lab space is where we'll put the 1940s guy, Manowar. It's
Right.
the same place because we need to have him somewhere secure and
I think kind of half what he needs is somewhere to do junky biochemical things, and the other half of what he needs is someone to try and sort his brain out.
Yeah.
I was wondering if he should be talking to Father Ochoa.
Interesting
That's
point.
interesting.
Okay.
Do we know?
In fact, Father
if he's
Ochoa
Catholic?
is the person who's normally under deep cover places to.
As far as
Yeah.
like
Well,
sneaky
maybe.
places to be, he's the expert.
Yeah, that
and
is true.
and also, if you guys can set up the biochemistry at least in some sort of functional way there, that actually would work pretty well. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
And Father Ochoa is a no holds barred, spiritual / tough guy, and might at least have some shot at managing Darren psychologically.
yes,
Right.
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
Listen,
Okay, that's not bad.
Is
That's not bad.
Darren
it's a
actually
short-term
Catholic or not? What do we know about Darren's personal life, ethnic background?
The question is whether you guys really want to spend some time talking with him.
I mean, I
presume you kind
I
of do. Yeah, seems reasonable.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So after he kind of gets situated and Father Ochoa kind of takes over the, if you will, the emotional.
But yeah.
labor. Okay,
Yes,
there
the
you go.
emotional labor of this, and so once you get that established, then it actually really isn't all that hard.
Okay.
And you may be interested to know that it's actually what appears to be kind of a no-account little hotel behind a bar somewhere on the outskirts of
Sure.
San Antonio that, surprisingly enough, is actually fairly well appointed and staffed once you get in there.
Okay. Gotcha.
For purposes of, people
Yeah.
in these dubious circumstances that are being helped by Father Ochoa's network and or the one that
Gotcha.
he's part of. And so that's actually a pretty good place, particularly because the old swimming pool, which no one had ever used, turns out to be just right. And so
Just the salinity there.
yes, and so the well, it has to get filled and everything, but
Yeah.
so with that in hand, Darren is more than able to receive visitors and stuff, and he's agreed he shouldn't go wandering out alone. He's like, if I suddenly get it into my head that I'm in, that the foreigners have taken over the United States.
Right.
He says, I can't believe half the stuff I'm reading, though. You guys must be making up. You guys must be making this stuff up. I mean, it's impossible. He's sort of struggling with some of the details. Walking on the moon really isn't shocking him very much.
I'll borrow Amanda's copy of American Nations and bring that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That or what is it? Howard Zinn's.
Oh, People's History.
People's History. Yeah.
Yeah.
But really, unfortunately, with Jennifer Edwards and Jennifer Powers involved, he's not getting a standard catch up on American history. So
Yeah.
let's see. One thing that might be interesting is when and how. Why did he drop out of superhero sight so suddenly in the early 50s?
Where's he from, by the way?
He's actually from he's actually from the Southwest, so it's not that shocking, right?
Santa Fe or something.
Exactly. Hold on a second. What did I do with my? I just misplaced something. Oh, there it is. I was going to look up something here on my little pocket computer.
Yeah, more culture shock for Dan.
Well, there's something I've been thinking about for his background and relevant to
Cartography.
There we go. Yeah. Are you guys familiar with Operation Wetback? From 1954. It was the first dedicated effort to prevent the entry of Mexicans into the United States.
Whoa.
Wow.
And it was actually called Operation Wetback.
Yeah.
I was going to say, they obviously weren't going into subtle code names there.
No.
I haven't heard someone say that word in real life, by the way, in
it's a 70s. To me, it's very much a
30 years.
To me, it's very much a 70s, early 80s word. But yeah, setting up border control officers and the role of the INS in agricultural labor in the United States, what they called the Bracero program, which was actually set up an agreement between the governments for short-term labor. And stuff like that was all part of it. And in 1954, the negotiations about it broke down, and the Mexican government actually sent 5,000 troops to the border, military troops. Wow. And so then the INS commissioner was given basically he was a former military guy. They basically gave him military-style powers to cope with this.
Okay.
So there was actually a paramilitary confrontation between Mexico and the United States in 1954.
Wow.
They shot at each other?
What's that? No, they didn't.
They
didn't actually shoot at each other. But it was sort of the... But a big part of that's Operation Wetback was the American response, which was to set up an organized border that was effectively and sort of a push a button and it becomes military border.
Right.
And it was in collusion. I mean, the Mexican government and the American government made 1,000 agreements in the context of Operation Wetback, but that's what it was. Both Gates...
That was under Truman, right?
Eisenhower. Yeah.
Oh.
Right. Gates and Black, Man of War, and the Human Missile were mobilized to help with Operation Wetback.
Wow.
Both of them, according to Gates, refused.
Oh.
And so there was a huge breakdown over superhero military government relations at that point over this issue here. So so Gates is fascinated to discover that this same issue is red hot in 2018. Right. He's like, you got to be kidding. This is my life. This ruined, this destroyed everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some background here. I mean, but the point is that he worked with the Human Missile in defying Operation Wetback.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Then I tell him that's my grandfather. Mm-hmm. That's where I got my powers from. Mm-hmm. And I fly around a bit.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, there's some interesting history here, basically. But what he's also really concerned about is obviously, they stuck him. Obviously they stuck him into a tank and kept him there, using his tissues as experimental, biotech material, for the military. And so the fact that this obviously, some of it has gone bootleg and has been picked up by, biohackers.
Yeah.
Is to him this is a big deal. He's trying to sort it all together. He's still and he's patriotic too. He's like, how could the military have gotten involved in this? There was more integrity there,
Yeah.
Does he remember how he ended up in?
Does he remember Eisenhower's speech about the military-industrial complex?
That's 1958.
1958. Oh, right. That was
his closing speech. Yeah.
Closing speech. Yeah.
After he'd been burned by the U-2 affair.
Yeah.
When he had been told that there's no way that we would ever send spy planes over the Soviet Union. No, we would never do such a thing. And then the Soviets claimed they shot one down, and then the CIA said they must be lying. We have a kill switch. They'll kill the pilots. Yeah, we did it, but there's a kill switch for the pilots. So therefore, the pilot's dead, so don't worry about that. Nobody will actually think on us. Then the Soviets held up Gary Powers by the collar, grinning sheepishly. and the whole thing was blown wide open. So Eisenhower had lied multiple times without realizing it.
Right.
And then
the good old days when American presidents lied without realizing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, I think he was the last American president to be appalled that he had lied.
Right.
You know, and that's why he. Did you know, by the way, in his original speech, as he wrote it, he actually called it the military-industrial congressional complex. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Congress wasn't having that. So. Yeah. All right. So okay. So yeah, I mean, you guys, the young men at this place, at this old hotel, are really like you guys are. He's getting a history lesson, and you're getting a history lesson at the same time.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think what I would like to say is something like, well, we have to find out how the Army did it, and then maybe we'll know why they did it. In order to sort of, in order to sort of get him on concrete, like, what's the last thing you remember?
You have to understand, says he sighs, and Father Ochoa will step in and say, you have to understand, that kind of question is really likely to actually send him careening into that time period mentally.
Oh, right. I understand. But
we need to let me. We this is going to be a gentle conversation, Michael. It's going to take some time.
Understood.
So that's kind of where that is. He's actually kind of interested or concerned. Father Ochoa says, if there's anything I would like you to focus on, Michael, it's on Brimstone.
All right. As far as I know, he's left Texas.
There's only one problem.
Yes.
He hasn't. He's the one member of Ghost who's still there, and you know that because he's still running the campus consulting, the campus outsourced group at UTSA. Brian knows that.
Okay. I believe you're actually contradicting an earlier.
I know. But I thought about it.
Okay.
Retcons.
Retcons, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so nobody is more surprised than Brian to come in and find Rui still at his desk.
All right.
Oh,
well,
no.
And still his boss.
Well, not quite his boss, but operating as his boss.
Why do I get out of him telepathically?
Oh, well, it's kind of hard to get things out of him telepathically without being traumatized. So go ahead and roll your attack roll.
Nine.
Oh, pretty good, actually. Roll your effect roll, 3 dice.
9.
Oh, not so good. Yeah, his thoughts, I mean, all you get are the flames, but no content.
I hate those flames.
Yeah.
He's an interesting character.
So anyway, I don't know if we're going to get any combat in tonight. I have plans, but I don't really know if we really want to run a biggie. I mean, it was kind of good to catch up on stuff. If we want to stick with that, Ross, I don't want to leave you behind. What kind of stuff do you want Finn to be doing, and especially dealing with Liam? What do you have in mind, if anything? Let's focus on that.
Yes, Liam. I have. Finn has limited experience of breaking people out of military bases. So I think he's going to have to ask the brain trust of the gens and other people if they have any ideas what we should be doing.
Well, I mean, your brother might need a lawyer.
Yeah, you guys are totally in like the unfurnished kitchen of the suite in the Egyptian building at this point.
Nice.
Okay. Right,
yeah.
Right. There's boxes.
Yeah,
people have brought in boxes.
A few lonely sweet and low packets that have been there for 20 years.
Ew! Yeah. The girls are throwing those out. It's going.
I have a couple of questions about the law in the US. I mean, they have him they have taken him like hostage or arrested, and
Liam
that,
hasn't been arrested. He just got walked away
Actually, no, I don't think.
Yeah, he wasn't arrested by law enforcement at all.
what
That's
happened to him? And do they know? I mean, don't they know he's Liam already because of
That's the point.
fingerprints
You don't
or
know.
whatever?
You don't know.
But is he held in an official capacity by the government,
Nope.
or
Well, I don't know. Who are you going to ask?
Yeah,
So,
that's the
Guys,
question.
shall we just rock up at the gates of the base and ask if we can see it? Or me? One, two.
So Finn
Wait.
Walsh is going to walk onto Brooke Army Medical Base and ask to talk to his brother.
Good
but
idea.
can't you guys do like a habeas corpus? Do you have that in the US?
Well,
I mean, of
We
course,
do,
I know
but-
all about
Right.
it because of our because I'm in
Yeah.
Argentina and we know about the
because you have a real government, and so
no, because we know what it's like when CIA trained people take your friends away and illegally detain them, you know. But I don't know how you guys in America deal with it. I mean, here we have quite a bit of legal ways to do that. I mean, I don't know how universal the habeas corpus is. I don't know if you guys have it in
Well,
Anglo-Saxon law.
it's a basic legal principle of Anglo-Saxon law.
yeah, actually,
No.
it's a big deal in America. But the problem is that it only applies when you've been detained by law enforcement. And there was no arrest of.
There's a shit. Yeah, now there's a shitload of
Yeah.
military,
Yeah, there's
national security.
right. The last 10 years have done very bad things, but if we go by the default, then yes, habeas corpus is very, very important. But
As far as we know,
Right.
they just said, can they have a chat? And went off with it.
right.
So,
Yes, so you can present a habeas corpus if he's in a military base.
well,
Wow.
So
That's a good question. What do you think, Rod?
I'm not actually a lawyer. I mean,
I just play one in a
Hey, on
game.
TV.
yeah, that's right.
Well, the point is that you need some kind of legal. You can.
But
Mhm.
do we have confirmation that Brooks Army Medical Base is where he is at? I can't remember what we established.
Well,
Okay,
you had
can
been
you guys-
watching.
I was listening to the conversation,
Yeah.
and they said that's where they were taking him.
Well, Amy Biota, which is attached, which is the.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Finn, can you tell me what you know about Amy Biota? Like, what really is this?
So, borrowing people's materials doesn't immediately mean I did a lot of research into them.
Okay.
I know they're one of these awful military-industrial complex, fingers in lots of pies, working for the military.
Right.
I have a
Someone-
horrible suspicion there's an army biota subdivision. But beyond being the sort of awful place that employs hundreds of science grad students, burns through them and uses them to enrich awful capitalists, I don't know much about there. Maybe what we should do is a bit of practical research. And
I
break
can
in.
tell you a little more about what Finn already knows, which is that they are nominally a private company, but are basically funded by and
Right.
staffed by military personnel,
Right.
and who are, quote, detached for that purpose.
Right.
But more importantly, yeah, I mean the business relationship to the military is what they now call a public-private partnership,
Right.
right? And there's another word for that. And so the important thing about Amy Biota, though, is that they have a very, very good reputation among the progressive population and government of San Antonio because they're very green. and you can tell because their logo is green. And they've got all sorts of slogans about sustainable this and the planet that, and are lauded as sort of the right kind of biotech. They have actually a contract with the city for their energy management system that is supposed to be integrated into this power grid of the city. And biofuels are huge, especially because now that everybody is realizing that eating a gallon of corn syrup a day is a bad idea. All of a sudden, different things to do with corn syrup and Amy Biota was right on it.
Right.
So,
So are they in competition with Monsanto, or are there
they're a very different kind of thing. They don't do. As a matter of fact, plenty of people would be proud of buying Amy Biota, which is a much smaller entity. It's not a transnational. It's it's a Texas thing. It's a Texas company.
Right.
But a lot of people would be proud of buying or using Amy Biota rather than Monsanto. For economic and political reasons, they would explain that Amy Biota does not destroy ecologies worldwide for profit.
Right.
And if we're going to have...
Why is it called Amy Biota instead of, I don't know, Army Biota? I don't get it.
I think,
who's Amy?
According to the author of this name, who's sitting right there, it's a friendly name. It's just some committee came up with it as a friendly sounding name.
Amy Biota, Biota.
Yeah.
So it's two words, Amy Biota.
Well, they stuck together because it was the 90s.
Weird capitalization.
Right. There was a capital A and a capital B. You had to put them together. It was the 90s. Everybody did that.
Is Amy a mascot like Wendy's?
I don't think they actually have a mascot. They might actually have like a sort of a cartoon face that goes with the logo.
Right.
It's real simple, real graphic, kind of a circle and a couple of lines, kind of friendly face.
Like the smile in Amazon.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but their main installation is here in San Antonio, associated with the Brooks Army Medical Center, and their big push is currently on, as far as everybody knows anyway, their big push is on energy stuff. And so the destruction of... There was a recent blow-up at the Brooks Army Medical Base in their independent power grid there. And so that was a big deal. Is something wrong with that system or not? And apparently, no, it was a freak accident. Nothing could have been done, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right.
If you count on your fingers, it corresponded perfectly with when Man-O-War manifested in your tank. So
I asked Darren...
When you guys telepathically connected with him, and when the Scarab, later named Scarab, actually provided body for him to actually coalesce into it, that blew the grid at the Brooks Army Medical Center at that exact second.
Ah.
Yeah.
So I asked Darren if he knows why he hasn't aged.
Well, no, obviously not. I mean, the problem is that clearly they kept him in some kind of solution. He's not even sure if he was physically cohesive during a great deal of that. And so he's actually a little bit worried. He's like, am I even alive? Am I just, a memory animating a bunch of fluids?
Well, but did you used to age before?
Yeah, he was a human. He was a human guy.
Powers?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not that he has rejuvenated jellyfish
Correct.
powers. Or
Right.
something.
Right. Well, maybe he does now.
Yes, maybe he does now.
Yeah. Also, he
Right.
didn't have much time to ruminate on these things, back then. It's hard to tell that you're immortal in the space of 5
it's
years between being,
5 years,
23 to 28. It's not really going to be a good time to figure that out.
Yeah.
So,
Of course. I mean, it's usually the other way around.
Right.
You don't realize you're getting old.
right. Yeah, exactly. So, so anyway, yes. So I would like to know. So you guys want to do a little practical research on Amy Biota and on Brooke Army Medical Center, and that's fine.
Yeah.
There are several roles you should be making along those lines.
Hmm. Well, yeah. Let's do these research rules. Are we just rolling and see what we get, or do you want a little more direction in terms of?
I'd like to know how you're doing your detective work, because detective work is a cool skill, and that's.
I'm just trying to think of something. I enjoy getting the mirror involved, but just falling back on the mirror every time seems a little dull. I think I want to know about people who actually work for I think there should be at some point we should actually talk to someone from Amy. This is my personal theory about where would be a fun direction to go. Is actually talking to someone from Amy Biota and saying something like, "Hey, we know you're holding this guy extra legally. It's not like, if we just went in and got him, what are you gonna do about it?"
Right.
So maybe play some ball. Anyway, but point being, I would like to research who is in Amy Biota, what they're known for.
Right.
Who might
we
be
need
someone.
We need some supporting cast in this situation. Right.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
This corporation needs a face.
Yes. Precisely. And so I'm just going to do some basic research in terms of looking up who worked for them and their prior histories and work histories and social media histories.
Detective work.
Oakley-dokley.
Now, here's the question. Do you guys want to split up so that Brian goes zooming across the landscape to go talk to his mother at the same time, or are you guys going to focus on a thing as a group, one by one?
I think it's more entertaining if he goes to talk to his mother while we're doing this, but I don't know if that's
up to Santiago, but
well, true. Although I would point out that now that you as a group also have an opinionated supporting cast. One of the things they point out is just how brutally dangerous some of this is, and that clearly any number of these people play for keeps.
Right.
And so maybe it's a really good idea to focus on yourselves as a unit doing punchy operations with a planned, visible impact.
Right.
And messaging, is not a bad idea. I mean, they're all about that right now. They're all like, this is the only way to go. Otherwise, you're going to get hammered.
I raise my hand and ask a question. I say, I know you guys are all going to hate me by being this naive, and I do a sideways look at Shen. But
she's honestly shocked. She had no idea you thought that about her.
Shouldn't we start? Shouldn't we start by, I don't know, filing a missing person police report? I mean, get some legal grounding on this.
Yes, that's absolutely. No, that's great. We should.
Good idea.
Yes.
Mhm.
That sort of gets us into the territory of making this a public.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk to Shay Pao. That's how he calls Jennifer Powers, and she hates it. We could talk to Shay Pao and organize some, like, we could be in front of the Aimee Biota building, holding signs and whatnot, and that could actually create an interesting distraction for us to, break in.
Yeah,
Nothing like a bunch of human shields to take the heat. So
Let's start with the missing person report.
yeah, it's kind of an interesting point.
Yeah,
So what we would need, I think, is, Michael, maybe you can think of a way that we could have gotten this information without the use of your powers, that maybe like plant a fake or an actual neighbor or
Finn's house
witness.
actually burned down.
Well, the garage.
The garage actually
Yes, but-
burned down, and Liam's actually gone, so I don't think...
Yes, but we need to pin this on Aimee Biota. We need to say that he was last seen with people from that place.
Why don't we
I'm not sure if...
let's maybe give the police a chance to show what they're good at, and they can detect something. We'll go and talk to them first. Make the report
Look,
and then see how it goes. Do you want to come down with me? And we'll go down to
I know I'm a fake police officer, but as the closest thing we have to a police officer right here in the room, let me tell you, they're not going to be doing much unless we need to point them in the right direction. I mean, we're
Well,
all
let's do it.
missiles, the
Yeah.
cops.
Okay. Well, anyone else in the room who's interested in this says that sounds great. So, Finn, do you want to do this?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Amanda is real interested in setting up some kind of non-profit
Oh, that's a good idea.
that actually can set up things like a salary for Finn,
Cool.
so
That
he
is
doesn't
an
have to
excellent
work at Cody's anymore.
Yeah.
So she's working on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
We'll see.
Although, yeah, a couple more shifts there.
If I manage to show up for work, I'm sure we should
Right.
actually try and get them in.
All right. All right, guys. So let's make that detective roll.
Okay. That is a... That's a close call, but that is a success.
Finn. Let's have
Yes.
Finn make a presence attack.
Okay.
And since you have all the proper information, like where and when, and there is a burned out garage to, as part of all this, they're going to want to take a statement from you about like what happened at the garage and stuff like that. That I'm sure you can handle pretty well. But make a presence attack to see whether you can impress upon the police how important this is.
Okay.
So add 1d6.
Add one back. Okay. I got a 10.
A 10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, not as seriously as one would hope. And Santiago, I would like you to consider anything that you want to do to help in this particular area regarding Aimee Biota and the medical center, anything like that. Oh, and Ross, also let's get an intelligence roll. I imagine Finn cannot possibly keep his sticky fingers out of all the available bio issues raised by Darren.
Okay. Oh, I'm afraid that's a horrendous fate. Oh no, sorry, that's wrong. I got a 6. So that's a.
You rolled a 6.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
It is. I know.
Right. So let's just say that you've set up a new laboratory space out there, and it's looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, are you going to be treating your particular special needs?
I feel I should be. I probably need to be being a bit careful about this as well. I've been researching into Darren and poking around at him because that's not a terribly safe thing to be doing.
It's one of the reasons why I had you make that intelligence roll was to see whether you could set up all your equipment properly or whether you'll misdose yourself and get hit by your own susceptibility. So since you made it, then that means that's probably all set up. But between you, Jennifer Edwards, and Tweaky and Darren, you've got quite a bit of bio material, curiosity, equipment,
Yes.
starting to get set up.
Yes, lots of things going on.
Right. We got to figure out where that hotel
Alright.
is, Rod.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'll look at some places. I'm thinking it's southwest, south side generally, but I'll show you a location next time.
Excellent. All right, so Santiago, anything?
Yes, I have 3 ideas actually. The first, let me know where are we on the police report thing. Did we do it or not? I got.
We did. Yeah,
I've been
he's
down
filed the
file,
police
but
report.
let's
He did that.
take it very seriously.
All right.
Unless
So
you
I
want
did-
to, throw in your personality into this picture, and try to impress upon the police that this is serious.
Sure, of course. Yes.
Roll your presence,
All right.
and
So
roll, since they have to take your name for making a statement. You are Brian Black, and you can add a die for your reputation.
of course I show up in full garb, but
Oh, you do?
without the helmet.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Well, in that case, 2 dice.
All right. If I show up flying,
That's why I put in the extra die, because I can't imagine you walking in.
Yes, of course.
Right.
So how many dice
Plus
are
2.
there in total? Plus 2. So let me take my... And I have a presence of 20. That's how many more dice? 4. Yes.
So 6 total.
So 6 dice in total. All right.
Gotta love these. Yeah. I gotta say, you got Captain America here helping you out, right? You know, when it comes to presents, you might as well use him.
My friend I know from where I work on campus.
This reminds me of that chat we had about helping each other doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good example. So, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 18.
That's more like it. So, yes, now we are seeing some effort on their part. They are going to go and do a little bit of investigation. There's going to be a little bit of work and care put into the location of Liam.
Can I like hint at Amy Bayota?
Right, that's not a problem. I mean, they're definitely. I mean, they'll go and ask the neighbors and stuff like that, and someone will confirm there were some kind of guys, you know, something like that, and so, yeah, that gets underway. That's a good plan. All right.
Do you want to stick a name or anything on the police detectives?
I beg your pardon?
Do you want to stick a name on the police detectives and give them a bit of a?
Let me think about that. The real problem with police staffing I've discovered in these games, the curse of television.
Mm-hmm.
The image that comes to mind is always the cops as they appear on TV, the detectives as they appear on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to get away from that. Just as a personal aesthetic thing, I'm trying to get away from that and think about what, you know, has anybody here, because I haven't. I've known lots of cops, but I don't think I have ever met an actual police detective. Somebody at that rank.
No.
Never. So I have no idea what they really look like, what they really talk like, culturally what they're like. All I can think of is an American actor in a trench coat.
Right.
Yeah. Well, in Argentina, we actually don't have detectives. I had a teacher who wrote a program for TV, which I loved. And he said he had to make detectives up. That in real life, in Argentina, the people who do that work are the DAs, the district attorneys.
Right.
They are the ones who solve cases.
Right.
So
right.
yeah,
That's really
it can
interesting.
be a real
Uh-huh. Cool.
a TV construct. So I like that this guy is more like you're playing him more like a clerk, taking down the.
Right. I think that's what's going to. Yeah, we aren't going to have like some, super detective dude. It's probably going to be a bureaucrat. Probably. I mean, maybe not incompetent, but certainly much more. A bureaucrat. He's making the paper trail. He's making calls and stuff like that. He doesn't like go out to look at dismembered corpses or anything like that. It's not what he does with his time. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And names. You see, the trouble with names is, again, all I come up with are those generic names for American heroes on TV.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to get away from. Let's go ahead and
we can pick it up when we need to if you want
to. No, that's okay. His.
I got a name if you want.
No, I've got one too. No, his name is Mata, Mata. He's Japanese American.
Okay.
Yeah. And
you had to make him interesting. Why did you have to make him interesting?
Because Ross asked.
I just kind of figured if we're going to be on the run from the law, we probably ought to,
Yeah, you need some people, yeah. Well, and also, this is the point. Now that he's talked to Silverbeak, he was actually kind of interested. He was like, wow, so you're Silverbeak,
Yeah.
Right.
He said, and so he kind of gives you a look like, are you for real? Are you just another mascot? He's kind of thinking about that. But he's interested in what you say. You have a certain presence, as you have noticed before, that makes people, upon first meeting you, they're like, oh, you're some bullshit thing, and then you talk, and they're like, oh, he means it. This guy means it. 2 experience points, everybody. Sorry for the boring no-fight session.
We had 2 back-to-back pretty intense sessions. I think some restructuring is not the worst idea.
Yeah. And I like the way things are kind of coming together. Just to round it out. What's a little sort of day in the life detail you want to give me for each of the characters? Just cultural stuff, things that you do, things your character, likes or would comment on, or how they interact with somebody.
Brian doesn't like sports. Does that count? Something that he doesn't like?
You would certainly stand out at a state school in Texas. You would be considered, people would want to know why.
Yeah.
What's,
Because I can fucking fly, that's why. It's so boring to watch people run around throwing balls at each other while I do nothing.
So who knows? Maybe Brian is forced yet again, in order to socialize with his friends at all, he has to sit through watching a scrimmage. Do you know what a scrimmage is?
No, what's a scrimmage?
Scrimmage is when the football team, who has nothing better to do when they're not during football season, the team goes to the field and runs plays against each other, offense and defense, which would just seem like ordinary practice, except that for some reason this is considered a spectator activity.
Oh.
So all the students go and sit in the stands and cheer and stuff like that. So it's like a football game, even though it's just practice.
This is probably especially stakey for people here, where they're really trying hard to establish the football team at this university as something that's important, when in the on the scale of on the scales of American football, it is not very high ranked. So people are really staked in.
Right.
No, this is really happening, man.
Right.
Oh,
so therefore, you have to sit out there on the hot bleachers in the summer Texas sun.
Presumably, he has to be a Silverbeak as well.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, that's a thing. Another bit of trivia you might be interested to know is the guy who plays Rowdy, the road runner, the guy.
Right. He doesn't like you. Yeah.
He hates my guts.
Right, of course.
And I
of
love
course.
him.
Right.
He's like I'm always like the first time we met during a game, like we were both supposed to do like a thing. So I took him, I flew him around, and he doesn't let me do that again. He hates it. Like every game, he
well, no, it's all set now. You can't be Silverbeak at the football games because he complained that having you there actually diminished. And so you're not allowed to be Silverbeak. So you have to be Brian sitting in the bleachers, and you're not allowed to fly. So there you are, in the bleachers, not allowed to fly, having to watch this sport.
Awesome for me, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, well, I actually enjoy that, as Brian, not having to keep doing.
Right.
Because it used to be that everybody turned around and wanted me to fly, and the poor guy would feel bad. But the thing I'm not. I thought that after that I would become friends with the guy, since now I'm supposed.
Well, then why don't you go down and talk to? Why don't you go down and talk to him?
Sure, of course.
So there he is. He's tipped back his rowdy. He's tipped back his rowdy hat, and he's drinking Gatorade because he's completely dehydrated. They even have they've got paramedics there at the field, of course, for when the players fall over and die. And so they have to get resuscitated so they can go back out and play more scrimmage or something. And so so anyway, yeah, you're talking to Rowdy, who is not pleased to see you coming. So there you are, out there now by the bench, by the football field.
After the game.
This is during. He's taking a break.
During.
Yeah.
Oh, he's taking a break. Hey, Rowdy, how are you doing, man?
So
nice. You are really good today.
Hey, Brian.
Nice moves.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, I heard something though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's kind of looking at you a little bit by the side and says, "Don't you have some radicals to go beat up or something?"
Well, that's only on. Not on Tuesdays, man. Of course. Where would I be if not at the game?
You hate football.
Well, I do, but I love the university. I'm Silverbeak. You know what I mean. You also do this costume thing that I do for the university.
He actually slams down his cup and says, "I do this because this way I get a half scholarship. Okay? I'm trying to get my physics degree. You superpowered piece of shit. Leave me alone."
Wow.
You mean you don't love being Rowdy the Road Runner?
He just gives you the look like you are you should be on lithium as far as this guy is concerned.
I put my mask back on. I mean, what are you talking about, man? You're awesome at this. I can't believe you are. I didn't know you were in physics. You have the body stuff, and you're also a smart guy. I mean, what more do you want?
Yeah, I'm smart, he says. Listen, he signs off to the coach. He raises the coach and says, I gotta call it for the rest of the time, coach. I'm sorry. And he looks back at you and he says, "Yeah, I'm smart. I even know what patronizing means."
I read his mind. What's he thinking about?
roll your 3 dice. Give me the 14 for the effect roll. No problem. He actually is very, very frustrated. He is genuinely frustrated. He really, really wants to be working on a project. He really wants respect for physics, but everybody loves him as Rowdy, and that's all he ever gets credit for.
Oh.
And it just really gets to him. And he even used to like being Rowdy, and now he can't stand it. So there he is, walking off under the tunnel, right, to get out of the stadium, through the corridor, and in the dark. And he's holding his Rowdy mask in his hand, and his whole posture is just pure resignation.
I fly in front of him, and I stop him. I presence attack him.
Okay, what are you going to tell him?
I take my mask off again
Right.
dramatically, even though it's a bit ridiculous because I just put it on. And I say, do you think I wanted to be a cop, man?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a psychology major, and now I'm supposed to be like beating people up for not repressing themselves. I mean, this is the opposite of what I want to do. I also need to have a job, I didn't ask to be able to fly. It is awesome, but I didn't ask for it. I just inherited it. Inherited? I don't know.
Yeah.
Inherited it.
I apologize for my native language.
Surely it's my fault, really. Though.
Yeah, but
Closer to the source.
yeah, but
Yeah.
give me that's plus 2 dice for your presence, so 6 dice.
6 dice.
Appropriate situation plus 1, 7 dice.
Oh. I
Here in the heart of college campus patriotism,
yeah,
college campus
I run out of
nationalism
dice.
in the temple.
Wait a minute. There's more. They fell.
I personally would dock him because I still kind of feel like it's all about Brian.
I had more dice in my lap, and
Well, I didn't give him much for a monologue.
True.
Oh, you didn't give me extra points for the monologue? Shit. I'm going to work harder on that.
We're just talking about how
Right.
self-important
Rod thinks
Brian
it wasn't empathic enough, that you were still just talking about yourself.
Well, that was in the first draft one of the
I know.
psychological
Right.
limitations that I had. I don't know if it's still there.
Oh, it is.
So,
Yeah, Rod.
yes, 20.
What?
35.
35.
Characterization.
Yes.
Well, he doesn't
36.
exactly break down crying and hug you. But he stops and breathes and says, all right, Brian, can we start over, you and me? Let's just start over. Let's just start over. Let's meet up and hang out, get a beer or something.
Yeah, man. And I put my feet down in the ground again.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. That would be awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And he says,
like-
no masks, just for a while, no costumes, no masks, just let's hang out.
All right, man. No masks. Yeah, a
Excellent.
beer with no masks.
Great.
I like that.
Excellent. He says, I got your number, because you guys have all been forced to get each other's numbers. Says,
Yes.
I'll send you a text. I'll send you a text.
Yes. All right.
Thanks.
Right.
It
Good.
actually worked out pretty
Yeah.
well.
Cool. Now I got to make up his name and everything. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, that's not bad. How about Michael?
Okay, so I think I was sort of thinking about this, maximizing my local color impact here, and I think what he's probably doing on a typical off day is, he's still pretty. This has not gotten a lot of airplay, but he is fairly physically intense.
Right. Yeah. No,
He's
he's
not super powered.
no. You practice martial arts. I mean, you have a daily workout for sure. Yeah.
So I think he's jogging. He's jogging along the river walk by, Amanda's apartment. So the scenic
Right.
river.
Mm-hmm.
And, he just decides to go take a jog over to his friend's Midtown apartment, the new character that I threw
Right.
the character sheet, and just sort of shows up and, it would be something like he shows up and says, "Hey man, I was just jogging by."
What was this guy's name again?
Gabe.
Gabe, and he's the sort of nonconformist guy. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gabe is a white guy with dreads.
Okay.
Well, we can't all be perfect, Cal.
Okay. And I just wanted to sell the idea that, like, Michael shows up having jogged there from his girlfriend's apartment, and he's like, "You jogged here?"
Right.
Which is from his point of view,
is like really far. I mean, that's the right. Okay. Yeah. He says he's tired. What's wrong with you? I mean, he's tired just looking at you. And so he even he makes a joke out of it. He goes and gets a towel for you to sit on the couch so you don't sweat it up. And but anyway, yeah, you can hang out there. He'll tell you a little bit about it's a shame. I mean, I love Amanda, but I mean, ever since you guys got hooked up, I mean, I never see you out at the bands anymore.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just my schedule's really full these days, but I really want to get out there again and just catch a show or something. I mean, do you have anything coming up?
He knows there's a new band that is real big on like all the gender fluid things, and so it's a big deal that the band is like totally degendered, and but for some reason they sing songs that are like incredibly heartbreaking about gender.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the big deal that he's into these days. He actually will play you some of the music, and he's, and he says you got to catch him. It's one of those things. Live is totally different.
Yeah, well, I'll try to get out. Maybe I can get Amanda to come out for a change.
He does the guy friend face. Oh yeah, that'd be great, yeah. Ooh, I gotta close on that one. I can't top that one.
Okay. All right. I noticed the face, but well.
That's how it goes, right? That's how it is. Yeah. So Ross.
Yes. Let's keep it on the physical fitness thing. I think Finn is working out with Matt from Brian's Gen.
Oh, interesting.
Because we were all bonding and making friends.
Right. Well, it's actually kind of interesting because he's got a new setup where it's a little more practical. Mm-hmm. He's actually got the tradition goes into England, of course, but the police nightstick. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever actually held one. I have one. Yeah. It's one of the most heinously nasty weapons I have ever held in my life. Mm-hmm. It is exactly the right length. It is exactly the right width and heft. You pick it up and you instantly are equipped to break somebody's skull. It is perfect. And he has acquired these and is training on how to use them properly. Wow. So yeah, that's what he's working on. He's kind of he's depressed and serious. He's really glad to be working out with somebody who he respects, but he's really depressed and serious. I mean, he's like, this is a whole different thing. I mean, I'm going to have to actually use this.
There's lots of ways of fighting back, Matt.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why the government maintains the monopoly on violence, and it's because they're very good at it. You got to be careful. You can, crack someone's skull and then they can have 10 people will take you down. You got to think smart about it. That's what I'm saying.
Well, smart number one is whether Kroll is involved. But you're right. What can you know? What more can you? Is there some help that you can? He says, "Well, okay, show me." He's all about. He's like, "Show me." So, yeah.
First you grow 4 tentacles, Matt.
Yeah, that's right. First you grow 4 tentacles. Here, drink this. You'll be fine.
I'm not quite that cavalier about those sort of things.
Right. But he's but yeah. Anyway, so he's actually he seems to be kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of less romantic about his, the dialectic of the people, and as soon as he really started looking into the Antifa practices, he got a little worried. He's like, wow, this is really serious. They break people. I mean, they will maim people at protests, and they walk away from it. They get away with it every single time. He says that's what's needed here. There has got to be some kind of public accountability. There has got to be. I mean, he says he shakes his head and says, "Fucking Brian, he just never can get it." I mean, he should be. He should. He says he takes that shit too seriously. He has got to be aware of the abuses. He's got to keep his eyes open. I think he just blinds himself to it.
He's a romantic. It's not entirely his fault.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he'll tell you a heartbreaking story about how he and Brian, in their first month in college, had one of those all-night conversations about God and swore themselves to eternal brotherhood, that they were going to be serious about the university. They were going to be, they were going to better themselves. They were going to, be there for each other. And it just really breaks his heart that Brian seems not to take his decisions seriously. He says, this isn't, I'm not playing around. I mean, this is justice. This is, I mean, what else are we going to do?
Gotta take a stand.
Yeah, I mean, he says, I don't know about you. I mean, you look like you do great. I mean, for all I know, you've got a job downtown or something, maybe pull down 80,000 a year or something like that. But, that's not going to happen for us. It's not going to happen for us. I mean, when we get out of here, we're all going to be in debt. We're all going to be screwed. He says, right now, I mean, this is the last chance we have to actually have some kind of collective power. He's totally misread you culturally, by the way, but people do it all the time. And so anyway, yeah, that's Matt's situation.
So I kind of crawl out a little bit.
Right.
Come on, let's.
He like swallows hard and says, okay, and moves in, trying to use the baton and stuff like that. Cool. Awesome. Well, I hope to have broken everybody's heart. I love doing that with my NPCs. And
he's so gonna die. But...
Oh no! You're like, oh no!
You can tell.
Oh no! It's like the partner in the cop show saying, yeah, just one more week before my retirement. Bought a farm. My daughter can come out and ride the horses at the farm. Put all this behind me. 5, 4, 3, 2, bam! All right, quick! Somebody take him as a DNPC so he doesn't die. Quick! Right. That's a good question. Are not DNPCs plot armored?
Plot what?
Plot armored. I mean, are they immune to dying?
You would know.
lots of questions about the NPCs actually. Because
The rules are tough. The rules are not quite right in the core texts.
I was wondering if there was some way. Okay, well, what prompted me to start thinking about it was sort of when I was trying to make room for that side effect, and I was shuffling around the NPCs, and I was like, like I've got like 6 or whatever, however many people in my supporting cast now. It doesn't really matter which one of them has how many points. Really,
Right.
It's not.
Right.
I mean, what if there was just a block of supporting cast points, and what if that point value actually did something in terms of dice in the game?
Well, but we did see an effect last session where
Yeah.
I think.
Right. Hold on just a minute. I just got a warning thing about storage space, and I want to stop recording or else it'll bork it.